just great. As Nathan says, and when I say, after 17 years of trying so hard to get to some elevated status, as they called us this past year, designated, this feels very good. We're not done yet, though. We're not going to rest on laurels. The status quo is unacceptable, but we're going to get much better even now that we've been part of the Signature Series.
Before we go any further, tell my have a chance to see both how great of a job once again you guys did with this tournament. And I would think that the news today, even though we were banking that you were already going to score this score, but the news today has to come off with the success once again that you had in 2023 with putting on just an amazing job.
Well, I would say, Ben, thank you for saying that. We were trying, this Andy and I work really, really hard with so many people to put on the best event we can, and nobody knew really what the definition of this thing was supposed to be, right? In 23, it was like, hey, you guys are an elevated event, but when you asked everybody what that meant, nobody could really tell you. So it's like, okay, so how are we going to do this? And we felt, I think, and I don't want to speak for Andy, but I think we felt more pressure in 23 than we have felt the last 17 years. Yeah. It's like, okay, we better do this right, but nobody really knows what right is. So we just tried to do everything we possibly could, from, the experience that you guys had on property, to your guests coming on property, to our volunteers, to the players. I mean, we wanted everybody to be able to go, wow, that felt different. And we tried really hard to do that. And at the end of the day, charity grew 20%. The crowds were as big as I've ever seen them. This is my 19th term, as big as I've ever seen them. The player feedback was phenomenal. So, I appreciate you guys saying that, because that was our goal, was to make everybody feel like this was different.
Yeah, I think that I would add in too, Ben, that it took me 6 months to negotiate this agreement, and finally around mid-July, we got it done. And there was a lot of details, all the details that you read about in the press release, but we didn't know exactly what they all were, because they were trying to negotiate 8 different agreements with 8 different signature events. And so it was a ton of hard work, a lot of hard work, but the outcome was excellent. And just so it's clear, we still had our debrief meeting. We have pages and pages of improvements that we can make to this tournament. And both on the player behalf, we've got changes we're going to be making to the course. We've got changes that we have to do operationally, and Nathan can talk about access. And we've just got a lot of things that we can do and improve upon that we're going to continue to drive. So we're not done yet. And again, I say, don't ever rest on your laurels. Always strive to get better. And I don't even know what it means. And so I'm saying it tongue in cheek, but I want to be super signature. I want to be super signature. So we still have a lot of things we can work on, but the fans, as Nathan said, are going to will continue to have world-class experiences at the tournament.
Yeah, can you expand on that, Andy, about the 8 signature events that some were formerly designated events? I mean, you're now one of the permanent designated events, right? Yep.
For years to come, I suspect what's going to happen, because you get Century Insurance out there in Hawaii, the first tournament of the year, and then you got the 3 with the players, Nicholas, Palmer, and Woods, and then you've got the 4 of us. I'll call it the 4 signature events. And so these are all tremendous events. They're all going to have these enhanced purses of $20 million roughly, and I think 4 or 5 of us have no cut. The other 3 have cut, and but for the most part, it's all the same. It's a limited field. It's playing for a huge purse, a lot more FedEx Cup points, and official golf world rankings points and contributions to that. So I think there are so many things that come, because these players qualified for these 8 events, right? And the standards were in the release today with the top 50 from the 22-23 FedEx Cup winners, top 10 from 23-24, and the list goes on as to what it takes to qualify for this event. So I think that these 8 events are going to be very, very special. And I think what's really cool is that we're the only PGA Tour stop in New England again in 24, and I think but that just gives everybody in New England, Boston, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New England, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, a chance to come to this tournament, see world-class golf, not just PGA Tour golf, but signature golf on the PGA Tour, all the best players in the world, and have a great day. And as Nathan said, it's all about community and charity, and help us break that record as well.
So can I just get into that? So limited field sizes is how many? And like you said, no cuts means that nobody will be cut, so they'll play for all 4 days.
Yeah, Nathan, you can.
Yeah, no, Rob, I can jump on that. It is definitely. So it's kind of, one of those things where as a fan, right, like we're out there selling the event to our sponsors and the fans. And there was always that weird rub of like, hey, here's the field you're going to get, but guess what? If a guy has a late tee time Thursday and an early tee time Friday, and he misses the cut, he's going to be at the tournament for about 36 hours, and then he's going to go home, and you may never have gotten a chance to see him. So to actually be able to say like, hey, this is going to be an elite field, and they're going to be here all 4 days, like the fans have a lot more flexibility to build around their week. Our sponsors, when they're having skyboxes or whatever, they have a lot more flexibility to invite people out because they're going to be here all week. And so that is something where it's, from a tournament standpoint, that was always hard for us. Like, hey, we're not sure who's going to be there on the weekend. Now I can tell you who's going to be there for 5 days at our event, and that's just going to totally change the dynamic of the tournament.
Another thing that Bissette dropped in there in that response to Rob was course change as well. Talk on that. You were also talking about this during the press conference before the tournament. I held off on this question just so you could do a good job in 2023, and I can worry about this stuff in 24. You were saying people were looking to buy some property over there at Cromwell TPC River Highlands. What exactly are you planning on doing with this course?
I'll let Andy weigh in on that. He did a walk, about a 4-hour walk. So Andy, you became a course designer, I think, and you had a crash course in that.
Well, and disconnect those two comments because this has nothing to do with land around the course. So, we had feedback from a number of players. Nathan and I always go, as you know, to and ask players, caddies, sponsors, wives, kids. We ask everybody, what can we do better next year? And we get a lot of feedback from players with suggestions about the course. So, what was very interesting, I thought, was that about 3 weeks ago, the PGA Tour sent up their top designer of courses, of golf courses. This guy is phenomenal. And the head rules official came up, and we spent 4 hours. I thought it was going to be a 1-hour meeting, like do this, do that, do that. No. This was super analytic for 4 hours, driving all 18 holes. We could do this. We could do this. We could improve the playability. Oh, the risk reward. I kept looking and listening and going like, oh my God. I never thought of golf like this. I thought it was one of the more interesting things that if we could offer that to fans, I think every fan would find this intriguing and interesting. So they came up with a plan. We're still being refined now. Probably over the next 2 or 3 years, you can see 5 or 6 changes to the course maybe, and it'll lengthen it a little bit, make it more playable, make it a little bit more risk-reward. We'll move a couple of greens maybe, and there's just stuff that they're going to do, move a tee box, move it to the left, move it to the right, but it's all going to be very, very interesting, and I think and just make the course a little different from what they're used to playing. And I think it actually answers a lot of the comments that were made about the course. So Nathan and I are very excited about this. We still have more details before we can start talking specifics. Then we'd be glad to talk about them with you, but we just don't know yet. But there's going to be, again, response to players making comments about the course. Yes, there's things. But you know what? Then Nathan reminded me, too, over the last 5 years, there have been continual changes to the course. They have upgraded the bunkers on the course. They went through and they put the new tee box in 17 on the course. So this is like, and actually the head designer for the PGA Tour was already up with Nathan back in March, April, looking at all this. So this is like an ongoing piece of, we never accept the status quo. We're always going to drive to get better. And so the fans will see some changes in 24 and some more in 25, and we'll go from there and see what we continue to do to make the golf tournament better for everybody.
Talking to Andy Bissette and Nathan Grube. Andy is the Executive Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer of Travelers. Nathan is the Tournament Director of the Travelers Championship. I wanted to throw this at you, Nathan. As far as like the build-outs and the things over the last 9 years that I've been covering the tournament, just phenomenal. I mean, this year was phenomenal. I don't see any other tournaments. Like when I go home after I broadcast and then I'm watching like the B-roll of helicopters or drones flying over stuff. You know, the design over the years that have changed to where there's just like a flow to this tournament, the way the fans are allowed down access because we're right behind the putting green and the driving range. I mean, just the attention to details you and Andy have put in. But just talk about the logistics. This can't be easy. You make it seem so seamless. Talk about how many people and how hard it is to put on this 1 week of golf every year.
Well, you mentioned, I appreciate you saying that, Rob. You mentioned a couple operational things. I got to have a shout out. Kevin Harrington has been on our team. This was his 20th tournament, actually. He interned with us and then came straight on as intern, and he oversees everything that you just described. He oversees, and he has a phenomenal and a lot of people that he works with. But what you see is institutional knowledge. Every year he is tweaking, and he'll bring ideas going, hey, I think we could do this better. I think if I move this in lane of traffic here, it could do different. If I pave this over here, it could be different. If I put mats down here, or if I made this tent this side. Like the ideas that he comes up with, I'm like, that sounds awesome, man. Let's do it. So, but every flow and change when you look at that thing operationally is a lot of people looking at it. And like Andy said, the status quo is not acceptable. We take that operationally and experientially, right? Like we want the fan experience to be better every year. But operationally, how do we get more efficient? How do we, get trash out of here better? How do we stage these things at night better? And then ultimately, like the things that you described, like it looks really, really good on TV, and it represents, I would say, to everybody watching and listening, like, hey, this is how Connecticut does big time sports, And when the broadcast looks that good, or when the aerials look that good, like we feel like we're auditioning every single year for, hey, if there's a huge event looking to come to a region around the country, this is what Connecticut does, and this is how Connecticut does it when it comes to huge, big-time events for their fans. And operation like it's not easy. I mean, there's 13, 14 on our team. We have, 5 or 6 interns every year, so we get up to 20 for about 4 or 5 months. And then Andy and his team, he basically has a team of 30, 40 people that will kind of lend their expertise to us as a tournament team throughout the year. We couldn't do some of the things that, that we do here without that support. And then there's 2,000 volunteers that are working year round on this for those, 5-6 days of that experience. It culminates into something special that I think we all should be proud of.
I would add in, too, Ben, for a second, we're so lucky to have Nathan and his team. We've got a world-class team working on this thing, 13 people working on this year-round, along with a lot of our team at Travelers. But we've got a world-class team. Nothing goes unturned. Like this year, Nathan and I were not happy with parking. Now, we are one of the only PGA Tour events, and I only have parking adjacent to the course for, I don't know what it is, Nathan, 7,000 vehicles, 10,000, whatever it is. We're the only. Everybody else buses them in from 1, 2, 3, 4 miles away. And so when I say improvements to parking, don't get me wrong, but access, can you have like a traffic jam here and there, and we're looking at that. I always look at this as who are we auditioning for? It's not for the tour. I think we're auditioning for our fans and our sponsors to want to come back next year and have even a better experience next year than they had this year. So we look at every little nook and crook and cranny. We looked at everything. That we just had our 4-hour debrief meeting last week, and we have a pretty good list, massive list of stuff we've got to go work on, and that's how we keep getting better.
And you guys run into some really good luck when it comes to actual golf. When it comes to like Jordan Spieth chipping from the sand, 8-hole playoffs, and this year your champion being from New England, Speak on Keegan Bradley and what it meant to him, what it meant to the fans. I thought it was goosebump stuff when he was walking up 18 on Sunday, and the whole entire place was still there, even though they knew, he'd really have to mess up to blow that lead. But for him to win and on really kind of his home course, or like you said, Andy, New England's pro tournament, what did that mean for him? What did that mean for you guys as a tournament to have him as champion?
I got to give props to Andy, Ben. He scripted that on Monday. He's like, what would be cool this year is to have a New England winner. Let's really have a good chance. Let's dodge the weather, late start on Sunday, So it was good in the planning process. So, but no, obviously it's fun. You can do all this planning, but to your point, like you don't know who's going to win, right? And it was goosebump stuff to see. I mean, Keegan has said we actually did something with Keegan at the Masters. He helped us out with some guests. We hosted some people in April, and he said to the people there, he goes, "There is no tournament that I want to win more than Travelers." He's like, and I've put too much pressure on myself over the years because this is the one that I want to win the most. It's my only hometown event. And he said, he goes, "Man, I was getting goosebumps as it was getting closer, going, oh my God, what happened?" Yeah. And he said to have them chant my name, he was holding back tears. And to your point, it was a goosebump moment that I got to give props to Andy. He scripted it just right. So Andy, well done on scripting that one.
Are you kidding me? He was at putt-putt the week before because he missed the cut at the U.S. Open.
Yeah, that's what turned it around.
That's exactly. So I think Andy felt bad. You know what? This guy needs a win. Let's get him in there.
I'll go play mini golf. Maybe our real golf games would get better for you to just play mini golf.
There you go. There you go. His putting was on point. Gentlemen, as always, it's such a pleasure to have you on in our family. We love you guys. Thank you so much again. Another great job in 2023. Can't wait for 2024.
See you guys in 314 days.
It's coming quick, Nathan. It's coming quick.
Thank you, Grube.
Thank you.
All right, you guys.
Thank you for being our partners. We appreciate it.
All right, you guys take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right, when we come back, we'll do First Dibs question of the day, sponsored by Trantolo.